Hey everybody, I know it's just me today, and I want you guys to say a quick prayer for Brian because he's not feeling well. But it is just me. Y'all know me. I can be a little hyping on my own and whatever. But I just wanted to say hello to everyone, and this is just going to be a great show because I'm going to jump right into it. We are going to be talking with Orice Jenkins. Orice Jenkins is a recording artist, genealogist, educator, and author born and raised in Hartford, Connecticut. He began researching his family history upon discovering that Whitney Houston's grandparents were from his grandmother's hometown of Blakely, Georgia. Since then, he has traced his ancestry back to 1756 in Central Virginia. Orice is a member of the Sons and Daughters of the U.S. Middle Passage, the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society. He's presented his findings at the College of William and Mary Lemon Project Spring Symposium, Family Search Roots Tech Conference, and the International African American Museum Center for Family History. His research has been featured in the Washington Post, PBS, Finding Your Roots, and on the National Park Service website, which is where I don't work for them, but I do work for MPCA. Orice's newest project is a book chronicling the family of Grandison Goolsby, a prominent farmer who was extrajudiciously lynched in Early County, Georgia in 1915. The book is titled The Early County Massacre, Goolsby versus the State of Georgia, and it was published by the History Press in an imprint of Arcadia Publishing. So we're going to get right into what he talking to Orice, but I want you guys to know Orice will be back to discuss his book, and I'm going to give you the date right up front, July 28th. So be here or be square. Okay. Hey,
That's
Orice,
right.
how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me and sending my prayers up to Brian as well.
Yeah, thank you. He's not feeling too well, and I had to fuss at him a little bit, tell him, hey, this is what I need you to do. Get yourself together. You don't
Yeah.
have to be on the show. So but let's just jump right into this whole thing. I want to thank you for joining us. And first things first, since we were just talking about this question, and I know this question is for everybody wants to know, hopefully this will put an end to it for people that watch this show and talk to you. How did you get into your music and do you connect it to your research?
Okay. Thank you for asking that question. Music, I really stumbled into music, but when I did, it felt like it was a part of me. Like, and I think we were just talking earlier about how sometimes things are in our ancestry that we don't know where it came from. That might be the case with me as well, because once I got into music, it was like, wow, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. But I basically went through a loss in my family. My mom's sister, Victoria Jenkins, passed away, and I started writing a lot of poetry to cope with that loss. And I ended up turning those poems into songs.
Mm,
So that's how I got started. Writing my music, and I always loved to study musicians and study where they came from and study who their inspirations were. So, like, my favorite was Alicia Keys at the time, and I noticed
really?
that she liked Stevie Wonder, and Stevie Wonder liked Ray Charles, and Ray Charles liked Nat King Cole. So I would always go back and try to learn more about who my favorites were listening to. And that's also how I got into genealogy. I was studying Whitney Houston, and when she passed away, I read a sentence about how her family was from Blakely, Georgia, the same place where
Oh,
you just read that my family is from, and that my book is about, Early County, Georgia. And my grandmother always said Early County is so small. She said
everybody's really.
everybody's related, and goodness, I wish she was here to see how true that was, because I find a connection almost every day. Um, Actually, every day, every single day, I find a new connection that I'm like, wow, I didn't realize they were related that way. But yes, but Whitney, is a legendary, songstress, broke so many barriers for a lot of
Yes.
the singers that came after her. Um, so I really wanted to, and she's a part of that continuum with Aretha and her mother, Cissy Houston, and Dionne Warwick, and all these other legends in Black music and in pop music as well. So I wanted to learn more about her and connect her to my tree. So that's how I started doing genealogy.
Did you connect her?
I did.
Oh my God. So I love your cousin. Like I cried like a baby when she died. You'd have thought it was a family member the way I cried for her.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So let's focus more on you and your music. What genre do you fit in when it comes to it?
I don't fit in any genre. I tried, it didn't
I
work.
know that's right.
I love, I'm a child of hip hop. I say I grew up in the hip hop era, so that's
Yes.
what I love. And those poems really were raps before they became songs.
Uh-huh.
So I love hip hop, and then I also though love musical theater. My mom was really into musical theater, so she played a lot of that for me as a kid, and of course as well as Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder. So I love R&B. But then when I was in high school, I got into jazz, and
Mm,
that was really a cool experience for me because I kind of felt like my voice fit more, singing jazz music as opposed to other styles of music. So I have 4 albums that I've done. The first is R&B, but the second one is a jazz album. Well, I tried to make a jazz album. Of course, there's all kinds of hip hop on there and R&B on there, even classical music that I do as well. But jazz is what most people try to put me in. That's the box that most people say that I fit in.
okay. All right. So okay, you said that you're you like theatrical music and
Hmm.
plays, I guess, is what you're really, talking about when you say theatrical.
Musical theater, yeah.
What yeah, musical theater,
Broadway and things like that. Hmm.
Broadway and things of that nature. Did you in your research, because I'm always going to try to tie this into genealogy in some way, shape, or form. In your
Hmm.
research, not even just somewhere in your research, have you found anyone that is was musically inclined other than like maybe like a direct descendant from you, somebody that may have done side shows. So what did they call them? Side shows? The what were the
Like
traveling shows?
vaudeville and
Vaudeville, yes. Like
yeah,
anything like that. Did you ever find anything like that?
in a way. So I found, actually, I was in my mom's basement one day going through things, and I actually found a vinyl record on it, a vinyl record in her basement, and the vinyl
Mhm.
record had this face on the back of it that I recognized, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?" And the face was my mom's face. Um, my mom was in a singing group in the 70s that I didn't know about. And so that was one thing that I found that really kind of surprised me that I never knew that my mom sang. And then also her father's brother is a jazz pianist. And I found cassette tapes with his name on it. And my sister and I, my little sister and I, we used to lay on the floor and listen to these cassette tapes. We didn't know anything about what this music was or anything, but it was so beautiful. We would just listen for hours to this cassette tape. Um, so I do have musicians in my family, and even as I go back into, I don't really see a lot of vaudeville performers, or I saw someone say minstrel shows and things like that.
Mhm.
But what I do see is church musicians. I've found a
Mm,
lot of church musicians in my family, people that were the church organist or the church pianist going way back in several generations. So, and also my grandfather actually, I take that back about the vaudeville and minstrel shows. My grandfather was in the very first integrated um, minstrel show in Hartford, Connecticut in 1937. And his name was
oh my
Orice Smith. And I found that in the paper. It was the very first time that black people and white people came together. They really called it a variety show, actually. That's what it was, a variety show that they
that's
came
the other
together and
word.
did. Yeah.
That's so awesome, and I'm loving the fact that people are putting up, they found their pictures of their families in, jazz bands and so on and so forth. I mean, I can actually add into it that my mother was asked by Aretha Franklin to be a background, because
Mm,
Aretha and her dad used to come to one of the churches that my grandfather founded here in DC, the
hmm.
second church that my grandfather founded in DC, and they used to preach at Springfield Baptist Church all the time in Washington DC.
Right.
And it was, oh, my mom said, "Oh yeah, me and Aretha used to battle," and I was like, "Did you just say that all calmly? Like, for real,
Right.
and so it was really weird. She said, but her dad would not let her go. And
Mm,
given the situations, the things that was going on in that timing,
right.
I can understand why he was like, "Yeah, nah, baby, I can't let you do that." Because my mom was the baby of the 14 children
Mm.
that my grandparents ended up having. So yeah, that I think that's amazing. That, and then also another famous, a well-known gospel singer by the name of Madam Edna Goldman Cook.
Oh,
She is she started at our church.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
So
love
her
her.
first album, if you look at the album, you know how you got the label on the album and everything? It says
Hmm.
Springfield Baptist Church. That
Wow.
is the church on 6th and P Street Northwest. And her father was the first pastor of the church.
Hmm.
And she ended up being my first cousin's godmother.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is why this has always been just a big deal to me to have a overall discussion about this. So now that we know something about you and your music, we're gonna now fuse that with Black Music Month, and that's June. A lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people
Hmm.
don't really even know that it exists. What
Right.
is Black Music Month?
That's exactly what you said it is. It's a time where we all need to come together and recognize how important Black music is to this country and to the survival of our people, and which is directly tied to the founding of this country and the survival of the country as well. So, June is a busy month. So that's, I think, why people don't talk about it as much. We've got, graduations and we've got other things going on. Of course, we have Juneteenth as well. So uh, it often gets pushed to the side, but it's time where we need to remember all the greats that have influenced the music in general all across the world. And a lot of them are Black people born in America. And I don't know if you've heard the term BAM, Black American music, but it's a term that people have been using to encompass all that is Black American music, which goes all the way back to the blues and spirituals, folk songs, and field songs, up through gospel, jazz, rock and roll, and country, which people often don't consider Black music, but it is.
Say that
Um,
one more time. Say that part one more time.
Rock and roll and country, Black
Country. That's right.
people.
Yes.
That's our music too, and that's a lot of what. Actually, that's one story my grandma used to tell me. She said, I shouldn't be laughing. This is actually a horrible story, but her grandmother had been shot, unfortunately, and she said at the time that happened, some gentlemen were outside the house and they were doing things they shouldn't have been doing, shooting dice. But she always said they were also playing the banjo. She said they would always be playing that banjo outside. Like that bluegrass and that country, that is a part of our experiences as well, as Black Americans, and then all the way through R&B and hip hop as well. Um, that's all under Black American music.
Wow. So, can you where do you think um where do you think Black American it what I found was, when I did my research on it, was that President Jimmy Carter was the first person to actually acknowledge Black Music Month in 1979, and then after that it was Obama who actually changed the name. President Obama changed the name to African American Music Appreciation Month.
Hmm.
How do what makes you, what do you think was the reason for Jimmy Carter to actually start to actually recognize the music, and why other people are recognizing it?
Mhm. That's a good question. I'm not all the way sure. I wish we could ask Jimmy Carter since I believe he's still alive. And I
Yeah.
want to shout out Jimmy Carter because he's actually from Plains,
Georgia.
Georgia, which is in
Hmm.
Sumter County, Georgia. That's also where my family is from. And also, both Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama are related to me. But
Oh wow.
yeah, Jimmy Carter, I think he was influenced by a lot of musicians, even in his life. You may not know, but Jimmy Carter is a blood relative of Berry Gordy.
Get out
Um,
of here.
yeah, Jimmy Carter's mother was Bessie Gordy Carter.
I
Jimmy Carter
swear
and Berry Gordy are second cousins.
they're that close.
They're close. They share a great grandparent.
So that means that if they both did their DNA, they gonna pop up on each other's.
It's
Get
going to be like 200 centimorgans. Yes.
get out of here. Do they
I haven't met either of them, so I don't know, but I would hope so because I actually did a video on that on YouTube with usefulcharts.com about the relationship because I fit a lot of people in this family tree, not just Berry Gordy and Jimmy Carter, but also Michael Jackson is in this tree, Beyonce's in this tree, Marvin Gaye is in this tree. It's a Black American family tree plus Jimmy Carter. So,
know? Get out.
um, yeah, but that connection though is through slavery. So I do believe that Jimmy knew this with his mother's maiden name being Gordy. I He had to put that connection together. Um,
I don't
and
think they do sometimes because they try to. I'm just gonna keep it real. I
you're
know
right,
Jimmy Carter is probably like the one of the sweetest people to ever walk the face of this earth, but it's not even a thought in most white people's mind to connect their surname to the surname of the African American, and then sometimes to just be straightforward and honest, we don't do it either. We're easy to say, oh, that's a different set. That don't have nothing to do with us.
right.
So that wow. It shows like these that when I'm watching them, I mean when I'm on them or and I'm listening to them, you never expect you get jaw dropping stuff. And I swear you just you just bow, jaw dropping. Goodness gracious.
Yep. Check out that video I did. I think it's called the Motown Family Tree. And so you wouldn't expect Jimmy Carter to be in the Motown Family Tree,
And
but
is that YouTube?
it's on YouTube. Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna check it out because my line, I have part of my line, and although it goes back to Moses Williams, Michael Jackson, his on his father's side goes all the
Okay.
way back to Moses Williams, the man that had 45 children in my family. So he's like
Wow.
a ninth cousin to us directly. Like they
Hmm.
literally are on. There's no once removed or twice removed or anything like that. It's a direct
Hmm.
line, just like a ninth cousin or something
Wow.
to that nature. For yeah. My daughter
And
was
Michael's mother is from Barber County, Alabama, which is right
okay.
across the river from Early County, Georgia, where my people are from. So I'm probably related to Michael on that side too.
That's so amazing. That's so
Yeah.
amazing. So I'm okay. So the thing about what I want to know, I guess, about this month and why we need to focus on it so much is, do you feel that learning more about this month and focusing on this month will then help teach, I guess, our young people how our families were? Like, what are your thoughts about this particular month and why it should be recognized a little bit higher and more so, more than or as much as other months?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes hand in hand with why we have Black History Month in February. Because if I go back to my own education between history and music class, they made it seem as though Black people had nothing to do with anything in the history of America. Um, there were so many things that I never learned as far as music and as far as general history that Black people were in every part of, and I never heard anything about it until I was doing my own research as an adult. Even when I was going to college, which I went to college for music, there weren't a lot of choices. It's really classical music or jazz. Um, and there's so many other types of music out there that I think should be just as highly regarded in these institutions. And a lot of young people need to know the greatness of the people that we come from, and a lot of that is in music too.
Right. So when you saw, because when you said classical music, I
Hmm.
thought of opera. I
Hmm.
thought of how we've been kept out of different things. I thought of Constitution Hall, and I know Shelley is on here. She may can clarify this. It's and I thought of Marian Anderson and
Yes.
opera and singing and things of that nature, and how she was kept out. That's something that's significant to us in our in music as a whole. But what I learned in doing my mom's birthday party, when we were planning my mother's birthday party, is that when Marian Anderson sung on the Lincoln Steps, that was in the 60s. That was during the March on Washington. Did anybody actually know that Marian Anderson had been fighting this since the late early 40s, late 30s? Did you know that?
Yeah. Well, the first time she sang there was in the late 30s. Um,
Well, she tried to sing. They wouldn't let her.
mhm.
Right.
Yeah, Marian Anderson, she broke down the barriers that no one had been able to break down before. And she was an older woman when she first sang at the Met. She was the first Black person to sing at the Metropolitan Opera, and she was older then. I mean, she should have done that when she was in her 20s and 30s, but she was in her 50s and 60s by the time she finally got to do that. And then followed right after her, the first Black man to sing at the Metropolitan Opera was Robert McFerrin.
Wow.
Some
Is
people
that
might know Bobby McFerrin.
Yes, what I was going to say. Any relation?
They are father and son.
Get out of here.
So when you talk about that generational history, Robert McFerrin, the first Black man to sing at the Metropolitan Opera, just right after Marian Anderson. So they were around the same time. You have Bobby McFerrin, who broke barriers in his own right in the 80s and 90s. And even Bobby's children, Taylor McFerrin and Madison McFerrin, are doing great things now as well. So it's that's the history that we need to know. Because I knew Don't Worry, Be Happy as a kid, but I didn't know that Robert McFerrin, the father of
Right.
Bobby McFerrin, had broken that huge barrier, which is what allowed people like me to study classical music in a conservatory. I mean, it wouldn't have happened if it weren't for Robert McFerrin breaking down those barriers and other people like him, like Marian Anderson, Leontine Price. I mean,
Right.
Jesse Norman,
Right.
even Kathleen Battle. There's so many
Mm,
great, even in classical music, that need to be recognized as well. Because even though classical music, people don't consider it Black music, there are Black people making it. So their music becomes Black music too. And a lot of them, like Jesse Norman and Kathleen Battle, they have a duet album. What did they choose to sing for their duet album? Two of the biggest opera singers in the world, what did they choose to sing? Spirituals.
ah,
That's what they chose to sing for their duet album.
wow.
And it's one of the most magnificent things you can listen to is those two singing the music of our people.
That's amazing. So do you feel, well, I mean, it's every culture. Our culture, African American culture, has been like snatched in every which way, shape, and form. Um, like again, I'm not a fan. I'm like, for example, the Olympics. The
Hmm.
Olympics will be hip hop, not hip hop, breakdancing will be featured in the
Hmm.
Olympics this year. I have not seen not one Black person yet.
Oh, wow.
I have an issue. You see, so
Wait,
because
what?
you and I grew up in that time. And,
Right.
you know, you was probably one of them with the Kango hat on and your box top on the ground. Hey, look, I'm gonna tell you business. I'm gonna tell you business. I see it. I'm already there.
I miss my
But yeah,
Kangol
I
hat so
have not.
bad.
So I'm not. My protest to that is not to
Hmm.
watch it.
Yeah.
Um,
And I deal with that so often. It gets so upsetting when, and I love everybody. I think everybody should have access to this great music that we created. But I look at so many jazz stages and I only see a certain race of people on these stages, and none of them are black. I mean, how can you have an entire band playing jazz music and there's not a single black person involved for weeks and weeks at certain jazz clubs? And I
right.
realize it's, certain places don't have black people. Yes, they do, but you know, they're harder to find in certain places. Fine, but come
I don't
on,
think they're
reach
hard to
out,
find.
do the extra effort.
Right, but I don't even think that they're hard to find. I think they just don't want to do it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I don't have Brian here to shut my mouth. So I'm gonna need you to help me with that and my studio audience because I will come out my mouth.
Well, just leave it right where you just said it. I think you're right. I think we're saying the same thing, just different ways, that they don't
Okay.
put in the extra effort, because there are people that can live their entire lives without ever coming across a black person. That is true. I have seen it, only
Yeah.
because now I have lived in areas where they don't have black people there. So it takes extra effort, but once you do it, it's not that hard. They just have to, like you said, they have to want to do it.
Right.
And they should.
Right.
How can you tell black stories without black people?
And but see, my thing goes even deeper than that. How can you tell a story without including black people? Because or just including anybody for that matter, because we're all here and
Yeah.
we all played a role in things that were happening during these times, no matter what. You know what I'm saying?
American history is black
It's
history. That
it's
it's
history.
one and the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all one and the same. So I don't see how you can differentiate. But then in the same thought process, I see why they want to differentiate, because you have to show what you've done. And if we have our hand in every little thing, it's not necessarily showing what you have done. Does that make sense?
It does. It's the ills, I'll say, of white supremacy that comes over, and I don't know what that fear is or whatever you want to call it. It's just silly to me. But I think about, one of my idols is Nat King Cole, and I
Oh
think about in 1956, I want to say, when he was attacked on stage by the KKK.
my God.
And on the first song, I mean, they made this plan to literally get on the stage and topple him from over the piano. And it's because they were, oh, he was poisoning, the minds of their daughters or whatever. But then they would go home and listen to the records themselves.
Yes, they would. Yes, they
And
would.
and they would put out singers that would try to sound like Nat King Cole,
Hmm.
but really couldn't,
Really couldn't. Nor
So
did
it's
they
kind
look
of,
like Nat King Cole. I mean, let's just be clear. He was fine. And and because he was fine, that was the other issue. You were actually taking the attention away that they didn't want taken away. And that's one of the, I feel like that's one of the things. But in talking about this music and talking about our music today, another thing that I found that was really crazy, and I couldn't find the article. Um, there was a young lady who was deemed the best beatboxer of all time, not
mm,
of this time, of all time. Now I
mm,
don't know how many I don't know how many my family watching this or my friends watching this right now. And I don't know how much Genealogy Adventures knows about me on this light on that side of the road. But Dougie Fresh is one of the best beatboxers hands down. Like when I got shirts. I've met this man so many times, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm still awestruck when I meet him. And he's looking at me like, Danya. He knows my name. He's met me so much, and he's
Oh
like,
wow.
Danya, you still starstruck? Yes, sir. Yes, I am. Just give me a minute. Let me wrap my head around who I'm standing in front of. But
Yeah.
to say something like that, you have Dougie Fresh, Will Smith. He was not the late Biz Markie.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had the late, I can't think his name, but the dude from the Fat Boys. You can't say that this young Caucasian lady, female, who's younger than my daughter, and my daughter is 31,
Mm-hmm.
and call her the greatest of all time. I have an issue with that. And that is, in my opinion, that's a culture stealing type thing. Am I wrong to say that?
You're not wrong at all. There is nothing wrong about what you just said, and I've seen it for myself. I've had the pleasure of seeing Dougie Fresh live in New
Mm,
Orleans in an arena, and
mm,
it was called the Mercedes-Benz Arena at the time. I don't know what they call it now, but he with just one microphone, just
mm,
a microphone. That's all he needed. And can you imagine how much talent that takes? And for him
mm.
to almost come up with, I mean, he was doing this 45 years ago.
Yes,
I
yes,
mean, he was doing this a long time ago,
yes.
and it was revolutionary. And you think about how, and I saw him, it was many years after that, I saw him maybe in the past 10 years, and he can
Mm.
still do that with just a microphone, rock the entire arena, and just go, and all he had to say is, "Lottie Dottie, we finished the rest of the song."
It's done. It's done.
And he was doing everything that he could do. I mean, it's amazing when you think about the whole movement of hip hop. There's the elements that they have. So it's
Oh,
rapping, which is they call MCing, right?
mhm.
Beatboxing, breakdancing, and
And
also
D-
graffiti.
and DJing, because DJing was
DJing,
a
yes,
whole
thank you.
nother thing.
Yep,
Yes,
that's
DJing
all
was
the
a whole
elements of hip hop that a lot of people look down on these skills, but they don't realize what talent it takes to do, even with DJs. And I'm not going to say any names, like, but I see some DJs, who are, I'll just say they're not black, and they're getting a lot more money than any black DJ has ever gotten, and they're not doing anything. They're pressing play. That's not what DJ does. They're pressing play. They're not
I
digging
think
in
we're thinking of
crates.
the same DJ. But the only difference between me and you is if I could get his name off the tip of my tongue, I would say it. You're so lucky. Oh my God, you're so lucky.
But people know I'm not mincing my tongue. The reason I don't say names is because I don't fault these people for being able to do what they've been able to do. You
That's
know,
right.
I don't wish negativity on anybody. It's
No.
on our culture as a whole, our society as a whole, to uplift people like DJ D Nice. D Nice, who of course was a rapper too back in the day, but D Nice, in the pandemic. What you laughing
That
at?
that comment I just put up there, Tanya said it, but that's not who I was thinking about.
Me
But
neither.
that's one of them. I think you and I are thinking about the same person.
At least that person you put up, Tanya, is at least he's a little brown. But the
Yeah,
person I'm
he got
thinking
some
of is,
brownness.
yeah. And DJ Khaled came up as a radio DJ, which is another
Yes,
way that a lot of people came up and they're in the culture. And that's a whole other conversation because people like DJ Khaled and say French Montana, who have taken over the airwaves coming out of the Middle East, is interesting as well. Um,
yes,
but I forgot what I was even talking about. Oh, I was talking about D Nice. Let me
yes.
represent D Nice, who is a black man, who is a DJ, who took over on Instagram during the pandemic. And I was just amazed at how people were connecting with what he was doing because it comes from the root of, being a real DJ.
Right. You're
So,
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I'm gonna stay focused, but I did think of the name. I don't know if you're talking about this person, but I am gonna say his name because as much I'm 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 proud of what he does. Like you said, we consistently uplift, but I feel like he gets a little bit too much, and that's Kid Capri. I feel like Kid Capri.
Oh, that's not who
It's
I was thinking about.
Yeah, I feel like Kid Capri get way too much, and I think it's a big
Okay.
deal for him because he drags his name out, and everybody, oh, Kid Capri. No, I'm not. I'm not a fan.
So I'm gonna push back on you for that one because I don't play about Kid Capri. And here's the thing, Kid Capri, and I don't even know what he is. I guess he's probably not black. I thought he was half black. Whatever he is, he's not, he don't look like us. And
Right?
but the difference with him is Kid Capri can DJ. Kid Capri is an incredible musician and DJ. The person I'm thinking about, he don't even do nothing. And he's way more famous than Kid Capri. I mean, he makes so much more money than Kid Capri, but Kid Capri
Okay,
was
I need to
back.
know who you're talking about. Put that in a private chat
Okay.
because I need to know who you're talking about because
And it's not just even the one I'm thinking about. There are so many of them that they get these corporate, this corporate money to play and DJ at these parties, that people don't even think about asking. What call out a black DJ that you want to see get the job that Kid Capri gets.
call a black DJ out that I want to see.
Yeah,
So I'm first of all, I'm getting feedback. They're saying Kid Capri is Puerto Rican. Okay, I still just don't. I don't know as far as Kid Capri is concerned. But when I think about black DJs, I think about people like Eric B. I think about people like D Nice. I think about I'm old school, old school. I was born
yeah,
in 72, so I came up with I'm talking about DJ Cool Red Alert. Even when we
yeah.
going into the females, Spinderella, young lady Joyce, DJ Jazzy Joyce. These DJs are gone. You don't even really hear about them anymore. I mean, I'm at a point where I don't know. People are not, they're not, they're just, it's any of them could have gotten or done or do the same thing that he does.
Hmm.
I'm not, I feel like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of Kid Capri.
Well,
I ain't gonna
the,
lie.
the thing that we always have to keep in mind, because they always try to loop us in with people that have a Latino background, and there are similar struggles that we have to face, but the Black American struggle in America is different. We were actually enslaved here on this land by the same government, by the same people and families that are still running this government today in a lot of cases. So that's kind of the difference that people seem to forget. But being in from New York, which I'm from Hartford, Connecticut, but New York is very close by, and the
Hmm.
Puerto Rican community and the Black community, in the Bronx were always together. And hip hop was started with not just Black Americans, but also Puerto Ricans, Dominicans,
Yes.
and Jamaicans. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
so it is kind of it's a New York thing that where those cultures do come together. That's why you get
Yes.
people like Kid Capri, but also people like J Lo who think they can do all kinds of other things. That let me stop.
I just know people. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I like her though, but I like her. That's what I'm trying.
I
Y'all to
like
be
her
a really
too.
good girl.
I like her too, and but just some certain people. Even here's another one, Fat Joe.
Ah, yes.
Now
Yes.
listen, I love Fat Joe, but there's certain things that I think I look at things at a different lens now because other people that aren't from the New York area, the tri-state area, they don't understand why is this white man with a Puerto Rican name, saying the N word and at the top of the hip hop charts. It's confusing to people. So I understand where you're coming from, but Kid Capri definitely gets a pass from me. Y'all are saying DJ Envy. DJ Envy is black, so
I
he's
think
not.
they're just naming them, and I'm at this point. I'm just putting it up there because I'm so proud of y'all. I think we got out. I think, and let me ask: is this the hip hop era people that's joining us
I
today?
know. I'm
Because
seeing a lot of names and people know. Okay, like all
yeah,
right.
I'm sorry, is this my age group out in here today? Because Terry Burks sure put down my man, the BDP, the
All
teacher
right.
himself.
BX.
Okay.
Yes. And hi Terry, I talk to Terry sometimes on the Friday night calls with Dr. Shelley. But
Okay.
yeah, we love the BX, the Bronx. We need to have a hip hop genealogist group because
Oh my God, I have tried. That's something that I'm trying to do. I've actually been trying to get KRS-One on this show. The
really,
intel. I'm trying my hardest. I know somebody who knows him, and I'm trying my hardest, but I don't think that person is helping. I think they're just telling me they're doing it, but I don't think they're doing it. So I am really, really
well,
trying.
let's
He
talk
told
because
me.
I'm gonna see him in a couple of weeks, so we should connect and maybe I can put a word in and figure that
Oh,
out. Yeah,
oh my God. Oh my God. I would love it. I would, because he's the, let me tell you something. When we talk, so in talking about music as a whole and what it's done for you, what
hmm
exactly, because this is the one thing that I think is most important as far as music, Black Music Month is concerned. Music did something for me. I like
hmm
I said, I came up in that in the old school era where hip hop first came out. I was there when hip hop, hip to the hippity, when that came out, when Rapper's Delight came out, I had the
hmm
album, everything. I was like, what, 7 years old? So what you can't tell me about that time. As far as I'm concerned, that's me, that's my life. And there's nothing that, unless you grew up in that time and era with me, you can't say anything to me. Like that's
yeah,
how I feel. But in the same instance, in coming up in that time and then coming up in the 80s, and watching how we were just blamed for everything. So they came out with self destruction and they came, all of these different things. KRS-One he really was a teacher to me. Him,
yeah.
another person from Public Enemy, Chuck D.
Chuck
The
D.
way those two men touched me as I was
hmm
growing up, I honestly believe and feel that the ancestors placed them there, that I was where I was born when I was born, because I needed to do the things that I needed to do and see the things that I need to see so that I can then do what I'm doing now, which is genealogy, which is talking about our history and things of that nature. Because I started learning about history with them, through them,
Mm,
because of them, you
wow.
know? So,
That's
yeah.
so powerful. I agree with that, and that didn't necessarily happen with hip hop for me, but even when I like discovered jazz music and heard a song like "Strange Fruit," by Billie
Ah,
Holiday, I didn't know about lynching before that. Before I heard that song, or Nina Simone, who's one of my favorites, who I really got into. Everything I learned about as far as Black history, I either learned it from my mom or I learned it from the context of a song that I was singing.
right.
So but I'm grateful that, I'm a little bit younger, but I've had the opportunity to live at the same time as a lot of these people you're talking about. And I've opened up for Sugar Hill Gang. I've opened up for Lauryn Hill. I've opened up for Melba Moore. I've opened up for, I can go all across Black music, and I've had the privilege to share stages with these people, and it's been an eye-opening experience every single time. I get starstruck anytime I see anybody, you know, anybody, whether it's,
I
even
think,
Layla Hathaway. And Layla Hathaway, I got starstruck when I met her, but then I got to meet her mother, who was the widow of Donny Hathaway,
mm,
and sitting with her. And you know what I wanted to have a conversation about her husband and her daughter and the music and everything. But you know what she wanted to talk about?
what?
First thing she said to me is, "Where your people from, son?"
Oh,
And then she
she
said, "Oh,
wanted to talk about genealogy.
exactly." And she wanted to talk about what we have to do as a people to get together. And, this was, we were trying to get somebody, make sure somebody didn't get in office who ended up getting in office about, 7 years ago, whenever that was. Uh, she wanted to talk
Right,
about that. What we got to do is stick together as Black people and all. That's what she wanted to talk about. She didn't want to talk
right.
about music. So it's funny how it all comes together. Um,
That's
and it's
beautiful.
yeah, I've learned a lot from the musicians that I've idolized, have taught me more about history and about myself. They
Yeah,
taught me about myself, you know,
yeah,
more than
yeah,
anything else.
yeah. This whole thing about music, it's Black Music Month is way more powerful than people really know. It is on the same level as Black History Month because people just don't know. It's so much that they don't know, and unfortunately only folks that grew up in the Black household see. Nikki O just hit me with the best one, Pygmy Mark. The, I
Mm.
actually, I know my mom has these records, so
Hmm.
I'm fortunate because my mother is older. Like I said,
Right.
my mom is the baby of 14. My grandparents were born in the 1890s,
Mm.
so I have old music. And not only, like, I'm talking about when they had the records and it was like 17 songs on one album. So these
Yeah.
songs were like real quick music,
Right.
but I listened to all of them, and I introduced it to my children. And my
Hmm.
sister introduced it to her children. So now they have this wide range of music beyond behind them. I could tell you one time I was washing my car, and my kids was helping me wash my car, and my oldest son Marcus, older because my daughter is the oldest, but my oldest son Marcus was out there and he was doing something that I asked him to do, and I was in the house. My nephew had come to the house. He came in the house and he said, "Y'all, my nickname is Papoose." And he was like, "Oh, Papoose, why Marcus outside listening to opera?" And I'm like, and I said, "Because we like it." And he was like, "Don't nobody that young supposed to be listening to opera." I said, "There's nothing wrong with him. Leave his music genre alone." But his favorite is country music. He could sit
Mm.
with my mom and he could talk about country music all day long.
Hmm.
So, it's, I don't know if I wonder if other cultures actually had that happen to them. Were they able to actually get involved, get into music in every genre like Black families did? Because we were introduced to everything. I know I have an old school rearing because my mom was older. My mom was
Hmm.
older than all of my friends' mothers,
Yes.
so and fathers. So I know my rearing is more so of those of the baby boomer rearing. I don't have the hip hop. I have the baby boomer rearing,
Yeah.
and, and yeah, it's just, I love Black music. I think it's something that really makes a difference in our life and how we move and how we shake and how we decide, which way we're going to turn, which way we're going to go. And I think me growing up in the hip hop era allowed that because they were starting to fight again. Everything
Right.
was a fight again for us.
Exactly. Which we kind of are getting into, or we have been in the past like couple of years. That's why, like when I hear a song like Kendrick Lamar, he had this song "We Gonna Be All Right." I was like,
Oh,
wow, that reminds me of like like '60s civil rights era, all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of the root of I think why our music has been so expansive. It's that fight. It's really a lot of trauma as well, and it's that pain that
yeah.
we all have gone through as Black people, and that's what has caused the music to be so relatable as well,
Mhm.
and that's why it spreads so far. And then they take it and do what they want with it. But that's the reason why we've created so many genres. And I also want to really quickly shout out NPR, the Tiny Desk series.
Yes.
They always do a celebration of Black Music Month every June. They just had SWV. Who else do they have this month? They've
Shaka.
had Shaka Khan.
Shaka
You know,
Khan. I saw that one.
so I'm grateful that people are thinking about it. NPR is a really big resource for people to get information, and a lot of people, sad to say, a lot of people have never heard of Shaka Khan, never heard of SWV.
I could see SWV more so Shaka. You mean it's people who ain't heard of Shaka? Somebody just put up here that Kendrick's songs are anthems. I'm almost
Hmm.
upset that I didn't include my daughter on this show. One day I'm gonna have
Mm.
to bring my daughter. She's standing right here listening. And one day I'm gonna have to bring one day I'm gonna have to bring my daughter on because she's such an intelligent young lady, and she actually, this is something that she talks about on her podcast. She does not her podcast, her YouTube channel. and
Hmm.
she talks about Black music. She kind of touches on everything from politics to Black music to things of that nature. And I don't know, maybe you and I, we can figure out a day and we can come back to this again and then include a younger generation and
Hmm.
hear their side. Would you be interested, Lexus, in being a part of that? You can speak loudly, say yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That wasn't coercion at all.
No, not at all. I just told her what she, but whatever, but I know she's, but yeah, I think that this is, I think Black music is just, it's a lot more to it than people realize and recognize, and the role it play in our lives is crazy. So let me ask you this question. Do you think that the music today is making a change in the kids of today? Because that was one of the issues as far as the 80s. She's sitting here talking about yes. But do you think that was one of our issues, do you think that it's making a change in the children of today?
Of course it is. I mean, music is influential, but I think that people kind of harp on music too much as like it's the only influential force in our young people. You know, these young people have parents too. um,
Huh.
that's who's supposed to be raising them, and that's
Say
who's
that one
supposed to
more
be.
time because that was the
I'm just saying, like, I know I had great parents, and there were a lot of influences that I saw on TV and heard on the radio, and I didn't go out and do those things just because I heard them on the radio. So
right, right.
because my
You still
parents,
had your own mind, and
yeah,
in some instances nowadays, kids, that it's almost like they don't have their own mind. They don't have their own thought process, and they
hmm
go and they try to be like a lot of these rappers out here today that's not even really doing what they rapping about. They just kind of, you know, some of them, not all of them, but some of them.
yeah. But then you see things like what's happening right now with this young man. They call him Young Thug, so that alone makes it a very interesting topic, but he's on trial right now in Atlanta with Thani Willis. Is he's on trial for all these gang related crimes, and I'm like, well, what do you do with that?
Right,
How are you on the stand right now saying that you are not participating in these things that are in your music? They're using the music in the trial. This is
mm,
not the first time it's happened. So that's why
right,
we have to be very careful about what things that we are saying in our music. But also, we should be allowed to speak to our experiences, which a lot of the kids,
right,
like you said, they're not really doing these things. So that's the issue. And they're getting into a lot of trouble. But back then, like you think about people like Nas or Biggie Smalls, in the 90s, they were talking about their experiences. They were talking about, then other
not Biggie
situations,
Smalls. Biggie
not Biggie
Smalls mother
Smalls.
came, no, because Biggie Smalls mother came out and literally said, "You don't live that life. Why are you doing it?" I remember hearing it. I remember hearing it. She actually came out and said, "You don't even live this life, so why are you sitting up here saying all this like you do these things?" He was more of a suburb type.
Well, here's the thing though. Mothers know best, but they don't know everything.
True, true.
And I've heard my own mother say some of the same things when I talk about my experiences. And it's like, okay, well, there are certain things that mothers are not there for and cannot control the situations that we're put in, especially as a young Black man. You end up in situations, no matter where you grew up at, you end up in certain situations that you shouldn't be in. And it's unfortunate, but it's true.
Right.
So, I can't speak for that, but shout out to Miss Wallace, Valletta Wallace. We love Biggie's mom, and but she did not know a lot about what her son was doing, and it's unfortunately that I mean, look at what happened to Biggie Smalls. We can't sit here and deny that there was
I
something
mean,
clearly.
something's, yeah. Well,
I mean,
now though, but they're saying that it has everything to do with P Diddy, but then that's a whole nother conversation.
and again, he's not even from New York City. He's from, he was in Westchester County. So, but it's still, he was involved in activities that it's an unfortunate thing. But that's, again, I don't want to harp on hip hop being the only case of that, because all of these musical genres, jazz, a lot of them were booked by the gangsters of that day,
Mm-hmm.
not black gangsters, but the Italian gangsters, all the,
Mm-hmm.
there's gangsters in every race, in every ethnicity, and every nationality. They have these same issues. So it's not just hip hop that has had this issue, and it's not just black people that have that issue.
You're right. And it's and especially, but even though it's not just black people that have had that issue, it has been in every generation of black people for their music to be scrutinized.
Yeah.
Everything. And we always, black music has always brought everybody together, no matter how you look at it, but somebody always has a problem with it. There's always, going into the Motown era, going before the Motown era. This was why people like Berry Gordy actually left and went to Paris. People like Josephine Baker, because they couldn't get and do what they wanted to do here with their music. I mean, you have all of these different, these are people that people don't even talk about, and they don't even know, and it's just crazy. Thank you, Shelly. Shelly told me we have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Shelly. Shelly's our Brian today.
Yes, she is our Brian. But I mean, all of this music is just really what it is. That, yeah, I think we should have another conversation about it, and I'm really hoping, and I do want to put this comment up here. They scrutinized Donna Summer for doing disco, like all of that. She's absolutely right. So
But I wonder who is the they she's talking about, because black people
black
scrutinized
people
Donna
was doing it
Summer.
too, right?
Like, I remember Soul Train. What's the name?
Don Cornelius.
Don Cornelius. He hated disco, but that was another medium for our people to get out. I mean, you can't say Donna Summer couldn't sing now.
No, you can't. You cannot, because she could sing. That woman could really, really sing. But we are 3 minutes out. I want to remind everybody again that Orice will be back July 28th, because Terry mentioned your book and he was like, I can't wait, Mr. So yeah, pre-order his stuff now. I will definitely place his link in the comments so you guys can pre-order the book, get it ready, get it so you can be ready to talk with Orice on July 28th, 4 p.m. Sunday. And I want to thank you, Orice, for being on the show. Thank you for having this conversation about music and why it's so important to us. I know we didn't even get into gospel and everything, but we're gonna come back and we're gonna get in all of that. We're gonna get in all of that.
Great.
So I'm really, really happy about this. Thanks so much. Don't hang up.
Okay.
But again, thank you guys for joining us. This hour went so fast, and please, please, please keep Brian in your prayers, because he is not feeling well. And thank you again for watching us, and we will see you guys again next Sunday. Love you. Plus, just to let you know, we have a 2-hour special coming up on the 13th. I'll give you more information about that, so be on the lookout. Talk with you guys soon. Love you. Hold on.